Howie Roseman may have just found his next superstar, my friend. An offensive tackle standing 6'6" and weighing 323 pounds, considered by many analysts a first-round talent, just walked through the doors of the NovaCare complex for one of the most important visits on the Eagles' pre-draft calendar. And what makes this story even more intriguing is that this player arrived here carrying a scar that caused his market value to collapse, and that exact scar may turn this pick into one of the best deals Roseman has ever pulled off in the history of this franchise. I'm going to tell you who this player is, why the Eagles are zeroing in on him, and what this move means for the future of Jalen Hurts' offensive line. But first, if you're a die-hard Eagles fan and you want to stay on top of every move before the Pittsburgh draft, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications right now, because the next few weeks are going to be absolutely decisive for how this team gets built. So let's break it down. The Eagles are heading into the draft with one certainty and one massive question mark on the offensive line. The certainty is that Lane Johnson, two-time Super Bowl champion, five-time All-Pro, one of the greatest right tackles in NFL history, confirmed he's coming back for 2026. Johnson turns 36 in May, is coming off a Lisfranc fracture in his foot that knocked him out of the final 2 months of last season. And everyone inside the organization knows the clock is ticking. The question mark is, who is going to be the long-term successor to one of the greatest players in franchise history? And that's exactly where today's Top 30 visit comes in. The name of the player the Eagles hosted today is Isaiah World, offensive tackle out of the University of Oregon. A San Diego native, 6'6", 323 pounds of pure, raw power. This is the prospect Howie Roseman wants to evaluate up close before the draft on April 23rd through 25th in Pittsburgh. And the story of Isaiah World, my friend, is the kind that grabs your attention and doesn't let go. He spent 4 seasons at Nevada, where he started 35 out of 36 possible games between 2022 and 2024, the kind of consistency that gets the entire league's attention. He was the #1 ranked player in the transfer portal after the 2024 season and arrived at Oregon on a reported 1-year NIL contract worth $1 million. He made every dollar count. He earned all Big Ten honors, one of the most competitive conferences in college football, and allowed just 1 sack throughout the entire regular season. ESPN mock drafts were already projecting him as a first-round selection in the 2026 NFL Draft. It was only a matter of time until the game against Indiana changed everything. In the first half of the college football playoff semifinal, World suffered a torn ACL in his left knee, a devastating injury, my friend. His season ended before halftime, his combine participation was canceled, and the prospect the entire league was waiting to see run the 40-yard dash in Indianapolis had to watch from the sideline as everyone else performed for the Scouts. And you know what happens when a first-round tackle shows up to the draft without being able to run any physical tests? The market hesitates, teams get scared, and that player who was worth a pick at the top of the board starts sliding to day 2 or day 3. That's exactly where Howie Roseman spots the opportunity every general manager dreams about, paying a day 2 price for first-round talent. That's the kind of market arbitrage the Eagles GM loves to exploit. But let's be honest about what the evaluators are saying, because we're not hiding anything here. Pro Football Focus gave World an overall grade of 68.3 in the 2025 season, a number that dropped considerably due to 6 penalties committed throughout the year. Draft analyst Lance Zierlein of NFL.com described the tackle as a big, heavy-handed player with a firm initial punch and run blocking, but with sloppy technique in pass protection that needs immediate attention to function at the NFL level. Those are real concerns, my friend. And combined with the knee injury, they explain why a talent of this caliber might be available in the second round. And this is exactly where the Eagles' context becomes extremely relevant, because Philadelphia is not just any franchise when it comes to developing offensive tackles. For 13 seasons, offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland built one of the most respected reputations in the league by taking raw prospects and turning them into dominators. Jordan Mailata arrived as an Australian rookie who barely knew American football and became one of the best left tackles in the NFL. The Eagles' offensive line development culture is real, my friend, and any prospect who enters that system will have the opportunity to fix exactly the technical problems Zierlein pointed out in Isaiah World. New line coach Chris Cooper inherits the tradition, and World's physical profile is exactly the kind of raw material elite coaches love to work with. There's another angle that most analyses are completely overlooking. Isaiah World's fit in the Eagles' new offensive system may be more natural than it appears at first glance. Offensive coordinator Sean Mannion is implementing a Kyle Shanahan-inspired scheme, with a heavy emphasis on outside zone and stretch blocking, concepts that depend on tackles with lateral mobility, the ability to open running lanes in motion, and the skill to engage blocks in open space. World, with his size and his background in run blocking at Oregon, has exactly the physical traits that system demands. If the pass protection technique gets cleaned up by the offensive line staff, my friend, the fit could be perfect. The good news is that World's projected return date is October, somewhere between 6 and 8 months after surgery. That means, depending on when the Eagles need him on the field, the timeline is manageable. And the Eagles have a reliable backup in Fred Johnson, who filled in admirably during the final weeks of last season, while the starter recovered from his foot injury. Now, to understand Howie Roseman's urgency, you need to look at the numbers that define Lane Johnson's legacy with this franchise. With him on the field, the Eagles have won 110 games and lost 57 over 13 seasons. Without him, that record drops to just 18 wins and 27 losses. Those are numbers that speak louder than any tactical breakdown, my friend. When Saquon Barkley finds space around the right side, it's because Johnson opened that lane. When Jalen Hurts has time to process the field, part of that time comes from Johnson's dominance on his side of the line. And with 36 years old and a recent Lisfranc injury on his record, planning the future without Lane is no longer a question of if, it's a question of when. Bleeding Green Nation already made it clear. Roseman's top priority in this draft is finding the long-term successor to the starting right tackle. The organization heads into Pittsburgh with 9 total picks, 4 of them inside the top 100. There's plenty of ammunition to make a move. It's also worth noting that Isaiah World is not the only tackle the Eagles are evaluating. The franchise is doing its homework on multiple names before the draft, and World's visit to the NovaCare complex, which also included a stop with the Chargers, confirms that other teams around the league are watching the same prospect. The more interest that surfaces, the smaller the chance he slides all the way to the 3rd round, which would be an even bigger gift for whoever closes the deal. The real question every Eagles fan needs to answer is this: do you trust Howie Roseman to get this pick right? With Lane Johnson coming back for one more season, but his health in question, with Isaiah World available at a price below his actual talent level because of an injury, and with the offensive line being the central pillar of this entire franchise's building philosophy, the decision that gets made in Pittsburgh over the next few weeks could define the Eagles' offense for the next 5 years. So with the draft closing in, Lane Johnson turning 36 and coming off a Lisfranc, Isaiah World potentially available on day 2 despite first-round talent, and Jalen Hurts needing protection to execute Sean Mannion's new system, what would be the best strategy for Howie Roseman to secure the future of this offensive line in 2026 and beyond? Would you go all in on Isaiah World as the centerpiece of that plan, or should the Eagles look for a safer alternative? Drop your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later with the latest Eagles news straight out of Pittsburgh.